Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee, and this week I want to talk about amazing serendipity, when the wargaming gods seem to be pointing you at a particular project and you just can't ignore it. So this week I'm diverting from the script I had written because something happened to me this morning that just screamed a subject at me. And what it was I found a book that I knew existed, and I was going to buy anyway, but I found it in a charity shop, paid £1 for it. So I got Osprey Guide, Warships of the Anglo-Dutch Wars. Now, Postage Rejects as a group, as any of you who have seen some of my videos will know, we took part in an event a few weeks ago, Rapture, and Barry Hilton of the League of Augsburg came down and put on his Anglo-Dutch Wars game, The Attack on the Medway, and we played it for the whole weekend in front of lots of visitors, had a fantastic time. In fact, we had such a good time, we all ended up buying copies of the rules. So rules, Mad for War, little plug there, very good, very good set of rules, and we all ended up buying a load of models. Some more than others, it has to be said, but all of us ended up coming away with some models. And no doubt that won't be the last, we will buy more. In my case, I only bought one squadron pack because I've not painted ships before, but having done working on the first two, I will definitely end up buying more because they're actually a lot easier than they look. But anyway, I digress. And one of the things I've been thinking about the last few days as I was trying to get a little bit of painting done was, right, I want some information on the flags and perhaps some other pictures, some information about the ships. And I was thinking to myself, well, there's an Osprey Guide I want, and I was going to order it, but it's been such a busy week I haven't got around to doing it. You know, even as easy as it is to go on Amazon or whatever, I hadn't got around to just ordering the book that I wanted. Anyway, long story short, me and the wife shot out this morning for some shopping, popped into a local shopping centre, and as is our want, we ended up going in a couple of charity stores, always going out looking for books because you never know what you might find. And what did I find on the shelf? That for £1. Now that was like the wargaming gods screaming at me, get on with this project, Lee. And it's not the first time that something like that has happened. So when I was doing my starting off thinking about doing the Wars of the Roses project, really that journey started back at Joy of Six last year, right? So I went to Sheffield. I would like to have gone this year, but it clashed with the event in Chatham, so maybe next year. But anyway, last year I went to Joy of Six and I got a close-up view of some of the Wars of the Roses figures by Bacchus, and absolutely gorgeous, beautiful figures. I'd seen there were some painted examples there, and I was really tempted, really tempted to buy some army packs. But I was going, no, I'm going to be sensible. You know, I don't want to start a new project just yet. But then on my way back from Sheffield, I had a long drive and I like to break up the journey by going somewhere, and I decided I would stop at the Bosworth Heritage Centre because it was about halfway home, a good stop-off point for me. So I did just that. I left early, I went to the Bosworth Heritage Centre for the first time. Absolutely amazing museum, well worth visiting. It's not on the actual battlefield site, but that doesn't matter. It inspired me. It really sort of got the creative juices flowing, and I just thought I'm going to end up going down this route. And then I found a few weeks later, I found a book in a charity store, again a really brief synopsis of the Wars of the Roses, but really useful. And then I found a copy, an old school textbook that, again, £1 I think it was, it might have been a couple of pounds, I can't remember now. And that has been really useful because it gives a really brief overview. Now it's not entirely up to date because it doesn't include, this particular edition was written before the new discoveries at the battlefield and the discovery of Richard III's body, but nonetheless it was a really good primer, and it was just sort of like, again, serendipity was saying to me, Lee, you know, you need to do this, you need to go and do this particular project. And then I went on holiday with the family last year, and we ended up at a a castle that just by pure coincidence, that particular day we were visiting, they were having a living history event, and the living history event was based upon the story of the Lord of the Manor who was returning following the Battle of Bosworth, and it was the story of all the preparations that had gone into preparing for this and coming back, and all the politics and that. And there was lots of reenactors there, and there was equipment and stuff. And that was the final straw, because that basically said to me, you definitely need to do this project. Everything is screaming at you to do the Wars of the Roses. And lo and behold, I did end up buying my first order, first of many orders to back us. Ended up buying 2 army packs and started my journey on the Wars of the Roses. And of course, everything was also screaming Bosworth at me, so that's the battle I ended up focusing on. So all my armies that I've done, and you'll see the video, I'll put a link to the video of the 2 armies that I've completed for the Battle of Bosworth. But it was one of those projects that, I'm interested in the Wars of the Roses. I'm interested in lots of periods, like most war gamers. And I was sort of hunting around for, what do I want to paint? I was trying to think of a project that I would paint during the Analog Hobbies painting challenge last winter. And I was in the mood for a new project, but I was looking for something small originally. But everything was screaming Wars of the Roses, Bosworth at me, and that's what I ended up going by, and I'm really glad it has, because I'm really enthusiastic to play that. And you've seen I've done a video on the set of rules that I'm going to use and so on. And although the Anglo-Dutch war stuff that I'm doing now isn't going to be as big a project, I hope. You know what it's like, you get started and go, no, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm not going to buy a ton of models, but you know full well that I will eventually. Because the thing is with the Anglo-Dutch wars and the Mad for War rules, we know, because we played some games at Rapture, that you can have a perfectly good game on a 2x2 playing surface. Well, my little table in here may not be a full-size gaming table, but it's ample space for some small naval actions with maybe 3, 4, 5 vessels per side. Ample space, so I can play some solo games of that, and the Rejects as a group are planning on much bigger games in the Shed of War, and we're all doing our own little fleets, and we're going to bring them together, base them all similarly, so that we can do it as a group project. Something that I've never been involved with the Rejects, but the rest of the group who've been with the group longer than me say they haven't done for many years, possibly 20 years or more. But again, Serendipity screaming at me saying, get into this project, Lee, you need this information, you need to do the project, and hence this book coming up in a charity store for £1. That is it. That is if I ignore that, I don't deserve to be a wargamer, because the wargaming gods are throwing this stuff in my path. There's absolutely no way I can't take that project on. So, which leads as usual to my question to you. Have there been examples where you have ended up doing a project because you've just had to bow to the inevitable, because serendipity has thrown so much in front of you? Whether that's a book that's just appeared and you've been able to utilise, or an event or a film or whatever it might be, but where the wargaming gods are screaming at you to start a particular project, and eventually you've caved and ended up going down that particular rabbit hole. I'd love to know if it's, I'm sure it's not just me, but the last year has been a bit peculiar. I've had this happen twice, and I'm not complaining, not at all, because that's the sort of inspiration you need when you get multiple sources that are leading you to the ultimate conclusion. I'm trying to be careful about my hobby spending and making sure I spend it wisely, and not. For years I've always taken the attitude that I try not to buy what I'm not immediately going to be starting to paint. So I talk myself out of buying new projects or new collections of models quite a lot. But these are 2 notable occasions when the wargaming gods were going, stop listening to that inner voice, spend your money. And I'd like to know if you've ever experienced that little voice, and those little acts of sheer coincidence that have popped up with information or events or something that has just sort of chimed with you at just the right time, and basically forced your hand, made you start a new project. So as always, I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Now, incidentally, and nothing to do with the subject of today's video, I'm sure someone's going to end up commenting in the comment section about the fact that the books have disappeared from the top of my desk. I did have all my Blandford guides there. They haven't been binned or anything like that. They're now in a little bookshelf down here. I've been wanting to get them off my paint desk because I've bought myself, I'm waiting for them to arrive, but I've bought myself a big paint rack to go up here. I've always wanted my bottles, my model paints, better displayed and easier to access, so I've ordered a couple of racks from Green Stuff World in Spain. They're on their way, so hopefully within the next week or two I can have them up on the wall here above my desk and just generally reorganising my workspace a little bit better. You know, these plastic boxes leaned up against the wall are fine, but they're not very stable, and you take paints out and everything changes position. In a rack I can put them in and they'll always stay in the same place. But I haven't moved my Blandford guides far, they're still within easy reach. I'm just trying to make use of any wall space, and there's not a lot of wall space left in this room. I managed to get myself a couple of little book racks, so like I say, the guides have gone down there, along with a few historical videos that documentaries, box set of sharp, of course, things that were in other storage areas and have finally come out to see the light of day. They're now in my room, so you know, don't panic. I haven't thrown the Blandfords away. I've just moved them so that I can make a better use of my painting desk, and finally, after years and years and years, treat myself to a proper paint rack for my bottles of Vallejo. Well, if you've enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe and share, and of course, if you want to keep up to date with my weekly videos, please tap the bell notification icon. So until next week, look after yourself, keep gaming, and of course, keep rolling high.